The Rangers' road success might be the biggest indication of how good they've become. They're 5-1 on this trip, 14 wins in their last 17 away from home. Great wins in tough places. And tonight, the possibility of a sweep in Detroit, of all places. From Comerica Park, the Rangers take on the Tigers, coming up right now on Fox Sports Southwest. Five and 1 on this road trip at places where the Rangers have been 5-21 the last 3 years. First Boston, now Detroit. It's a beautiful night for baseball here at Comerica Park. And the Rangers looking to take a 6-game lead with a win tonight in the AL West. We welcome you to Texas Ranger Baseball. Along with Tom Grieve, I'm Josh Lewin. Good time to be a Ranger fan. And if your guy is Ian Kinsler, you got to be feeling real good that he's your guy.
Yeah, if you like watching Ranger baseball, you've loved watching Ian Kinsler play this year. Ever since he came off the disabled list, he's been batting third, getting the job done. Yesterday, first inning, a triple. That drove in the Ranger first run. Ninth inning, 2-run homer. Kind of capped a huge day by the offense. And along the way, continues to play solid defense. Spectacular double play between he and Elvis, and takes a base hit away out in the middle of right field. Just doing it all, offensively and defensively.
Making it look real easy, and over the last couple of weeks, 13-game hit streak. You go back further than that, he's hit safely in 31 out of 34. So he's been among the Ranger heroes on this road trip to remember. Hopefully the pitching will hold up tonight. You feel good about that. Colby Lewis is on the mound as the Rangers try to sweep the Tigers here in Detroit. We've got the first pitch when we come back. Texas Ranger Baseball being brought to you by the Ford F-150. Check out the 2010 F-150 and drive one. Ford is the best in Texas. By Progressive. For a money-saving car insurance quote, call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE. By Jack in the Box. Get Jack's really big chicken sandwich combo for only $3.99 plus tax. And by Southwest Airlines. Go to southwest.com, grab your bag. It's on. The Rangers had lost 11 straight at Comerica Park, but now they have put up 8 runs back-to-back nights here in the Motor City. They have won 8-6 and 8-0. It's tough to imagine playing a more complete baseball game. The Rangers played last night. Pitching, defense, hitting, everything. Even a squeeze play in that one. The Southwest Airlines batting order tonight will feature Andrews, Young, Kinsler, and Guerrero. Josh Hamilton's batting average now is 12 points higher than anybody else's in the majors, now at 357. Cruz and Murphy, Molina and Davis against a hard-throwing right-hander, one-time #1 pick of the Arizona Diamondbacks. There is Max Scherzer.
Yeah, he's another pitcher. When you look at his numbers, losing record, ERA close to 5, it doesn't look that impressive. But this kid's got a good arm, and he's capable of tuning up an excellent game. He's done that a number of times this year. Look at his last 5 starts. They've been terrific. Almost a strikeout per inning. That's 7th in the American League. 8.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. And he's pitched significantly better in this ballpark than he has on the road. So he's a really good young pitcher with an outstanding arm.
You mentioned what he's done in this ballpark. He has won his last 5 starts here with an ERA of 1.6. And he had that memorable game against the Oakland A's where he struck out 14 and only got 17 outs total. First major leaguer ever to do that. Strike out 14 batters and not even go 6 innings. So you're right, Tag. When he's on, I mean, he's really on.
Well, he got sent back to the minor leagues, and he has been on since he got recalled. Since he's been recalled, he struck out 69 in 56 innings.
No one else has struck out more in the American League since that time that you're talking about.
Yeah.
The Rangers had him before he got sent down. Had a start against him back in Arlington in April. Got him for 4 runs in 7 innings.
It's a nasty changeup too. That thing goes straight down.
Now, he is not exclusively a pound the fastballs at you guy anymore. Andrews hoisting one to right. Michael Young will come up next. Take you into that Ranger dugout before the game got started. We have both the antlers and the bow and arrow now between Chris Davis and Andres Blanco.
I wonder who the choreographer is. Someone has to dream that up.
It's all in the execution, though. I mean, you can draw up any handshake you want, but the antlers, that's become a real deal for the Rangers now. If you show speed anywhere, anytime, the guys will flash those antlers at you because you run like a deer. Had a whole dugout going antlers on Julio Borbon the other day. That steal of home that we talked about in the pregame show. Just one of the many exciting moments on this road trip. We've had grand slams, squeeze bunts, steals of home, shutouts. Tommy Hunter, 7 innings of shutout ball yesterday, and becomes the first Ranger starter ever to get out 7-0. And since June 5th, when that all pretty much got going, that's the most wins in the American League. 7. Josh Hamilton, another home run in support of Tommy yesterday. That's another incredible stat tag. 7 of Tommy's 9 starts now, ham bonus homer. In the other 2 games, he's got 3 doubles.
Yeah, that'd be really interesting if there was a reason for it.
Both guys agree it's just a totally random thing, but as they say, it is what it is. When Hunter pitches, Hamilton homers. When Hamilton homers, usually the Rangers win a game. Fouled away by Michael Young, who's in tonight just a shade under 300 at 299. And again, in winning 8-0 yesterday, Tag, there wasn't a facet of the game where the Rangers just simply didn't get an A yesterday. I mean, we've seen games where you say, boy, just nothing went right. That was the opposite. Everything went right yesterday.
Yeah, it's fun to watch a team, especially a team as talented as the Rangers, when you can say that about the game. Pitching was great. Defense was really fun to watch last night.
One of the writers asked me in the press box tonight, is there nothing your shortstop cannot do? Michael Young will take a walk, and Kinsler coming up.
Not defensively, that's for sure.
Elvis and Ian yesterday turning that beautiful double play. And Kinsler with the bat in this series has been amazing. 6 runs batted in 2 games.
Elvis has made some plays at critical times too, with the ball the other day where he dove in the hole, got a force out at second base with a couple of men on. A ball looked like it was going to go into left field and maybe give the Tigers a chance for a big inning.
Yeah, that game was a lot closer for a while yesterday than that final score would tell you. The Rangers put on a 4 spot in that top of the 9th. He had 7 extra base hits in that game yesterday, 2 from Kinsler. This ball chipped towards right for Ordonez, and he'll squeeze it for out number 2. It is Ordonez in right tonight, Jackson in center, Brennan Bosch in left. And in the infield, they go with Don Kelly again at third. He made a great play on Benji Molina yesterday. Santiago and Guillen up the middle. Our old friend Gerald Laird doing the catching tonight. And now Vlad Guerrero, who, when the Rangers faced off against Max Scherzer in April, well, Vladdy had a double and a home run. We've got 87 degrees here in Detroit tonight. No threat of rain, we are told. We saw about, what do you figure, 8 minutes of rain or so last night, and it rained hard.
Yeah, it looked like they were going to have to put the tarp on there for a second, but they had a good forecast. They knew what was going to happen. A little a little bit of mist the night before, but not much.
The Rangers winning that one, and the Angels have already lost today. So the Rangers taking the field 5.5 up. The Angels are en route right now from New York to Arlington. There's the off-speed stuff that Scherzer, I guess, more and more, Tom, is going to early in ball games, not just coming out there cranking fastballs all the time.
Well, Scherzer has above-average pitches. That's above-average slider, above-average fastball, and a really good changeup too. Got a chance to be a big winner for the Tigers. He's young. He's a little bit inconsistent now, but the ingredients are there for a lot of success. Whoa.
Close but no, says Jim Wolf.
I'm glad he was fooled a little bit by the fastball, because he generally is not going to take that pitch.
Oh. Lucky to still be up there. Hamilton on deck. And the 2-2 delivery. That time it is strike three. Rangers failing to score in the first inning for the first time in their series. Colby Lewis on the mound when we come back. No score going to the bottom of the first, and the Tigers, who have lost 7 straight. All 6 after the All-Star break. We should point out they haven't lost 8 straight since 2005. That could happen tonight if these guys don't get it going for them. The Southwest Airlines starting lineup: Jackson, Damon, and Ordonez. Miguel Cabrera wearing out the Rangers, but he's wearing out everybody this year. It's Bosch and Guillen after that, Kelly and Laird. And a scrappy number 9 hitter, Ramon Santiago, who's given the Rangers some trouble. The Suzuki scouting report on the 9-5 Cobra, Colby Lewis.
Yeah, his 3.42 ERA. That's 14th in the league. He's been a pretty good workhorse at 115 innings, only 90 hits. That gives him a 209 opponent's average. That's the 3rd in the American League. 3 or fewer earned runs allowed in 14 of his 18 starts. That's consistency.
On the ground, immediately a base hit for Jackson. And he's the one guy on this Tiger team that can run a little bit. He'll be on to lead things off. We'll quickly show you that Ranger defense, too. With Murphy, Hamilton, and Cruz out there tonight. Young, Andrews, Kinsler, and Davis round the horn. Benji Molina catching. And again, Jim Wolf, the home plate umpire. Colby Lewis has made 9 road starts now this year, Tom. And 3 of those 9, Jim Wolf has been there to call the balls and strikes. That's totally random and totally improbable, but so far it is just one of those weird things, and Colby is 2-0 when he's on the road and looks out and sees Jim Wolf. Good sign for tonight. Got 72 umpires. The odds of one pitcher drawing the same home plate umpire 3 times in a season is not good odds. A little bit off the plate to Johnny Damon here. And we mentioned Colby Lewis on the road. Opponents hitting, even with that base hit from Jackson now, somewhere in the 170s. When Lewis is pitching away from the ballpark in Arlington. That's the best in the major leagues. Pretty close to what Nolan Ryan did back in 1989 when he went out on the road and opponents hit 166. Colby beat these Tigers back in April. A 10 strikeout game. He's had a handful of those. As we looked at with the numbers in that scouting report, he does have some real nice strikeout numbers for the years. Going to walk Damon and have to deal right now with Ordonez.
Well, the one thing when you get to the middle of the lineup, you've got good hitters, Ordonez and Cabrera. The other side of it is they are a little bit prone to hitting into a double play. Ordonez did that the other night early in the ball game. Ordonez had hit into 12 double plays in this series. He's hit into a couple, into 14 double plays now.
Well, Colby not quite there yet with the command. He had walked only 7 total in his last 6 games coming into this first inning tonight. But already a walk to Damon, who starts out behind Ordonez. Floats it in, 1-1. A lot of things to love about Colby Lewis this year, Tag. I think one of the big ones, though, is how he's always out there for more than 100 pitches. Every single start, all 18 of them. That's a good pitch right there. Got him to pop it up. With the infield fly rule in effect, there is Michael Young.
Well, one thing that's made Colby successful is his ability to throw any pitch at any time. Got a good assortment of off-speed pitches. He throws a couple of different types of sliders, as he calls it. Also throws a curveball, a changeup, and he feels pretty comfortable throwing any of those pitches in any count. And when you can do that, then you can throw off the timing of the hitter. Got Ordonez on a slider right there.
Boy, you look at Cabrera's numbers. Doesn't that look like somebody's end of the year totals right there? 24 and 82 for home runs and runs batted in. Lewis powers it right by him.
Well, there probably will be a few people right around there, 24 and 82. They'll be pretty happy with their seasons too.
Cabrera, though, is making a run at a Triple Crown. So is Josh Hamilton. Those are probably your lead contenders for MVP right now, too. Well, Lewis.
Ball for a strike gets him to swing at a slider.
And as you said, any pitch, any time. He was ahead 0-2.
That looks a lot like a curveball. I think that's the slider. Colby throws one slider that goes down, one that goes across. That looks like kind of a hard, tight curveball. But to throw a curveball, it's a little bit bigger breaking pitch.
That one's off the end of the bat. And thankfully, because every time Cabrera swings, you kind of hold your breath. Out number 2.
Yeah, it's not a real good recipe for success to let Jackson and Damon get on ahead of Ordonez and Cabrera. But it shows Colby's ability to come back and pitch out of jams. And I think he's done a really good job of that this year, too. He's had times where he's been in trouble, but because of the way he can use all of his pitches, he many times is able to pitch out of those jams, pitches well with men in scoring position.
Brennan Bosch has been neutralized in this series. Rangers haven't given him anything real sweet to hit early in counts, and that I think is a big deal, Tom, because coming into this series on first and second pitches, Bosch was hitting .470, which is monstrous.
That was the first pitch. He just didn't hit it.
Nope. Colby Lewis made the pitch he wanted to, and
That's
after
pretty nice pitching right there.
Boy, after 2 on, to have to go after Ordonez, Cabrera, and Bosch, and he did it. Got 3 fly balls. There is no score. On to the second inning, and a reminder, everybody, Clint Hurdle is hosting his hitting camp for youngsters, offering them the chance to improve their hitting game. The camp is coming up at the ballpark Saturday, 9 a.m. till 1. And a portion of the proceeds benefit the USA Prader-Willi Syndrome Association, something near and dear to Clint. For info, go to 817-273-5297 is the phone number. TexasRangers.com is the website. Also on Saturday, as you may be aware, Tom Grieve gets inducted into the Texas Ranger Hall of Fame. So if you don't have your tickets for that yet, see the Rangers play the Angels as well. TexasRangers.com. Hamilton, a roller towards short. You know, with Josh, I was looking at something today here, Tom, that the Rangers, they discussed it in the pregame show. They're 16-5 on the road since the start of June. And that's massive to win 16 out of 21 on the road for any stretch. I'm looking at what might be a big factor there. Josh Hamilton in those 21 games. 41 for 90. 456 on the road. And that has helped. Another big game for Josh yesterday. And he's ascended to the top spot in the majors in batting average, 357 coming in. When we first saw the Tigers in April, 14 games into the season, Josh was hitting .205. Did not have a home run yet. Cruz, one of the few guys who's been as hot as Josh Hamilton. Flying out for out number 2. That's the measure of the stuff that Scherzer's got, I guess. Tagged the Rangers with Hamilton and Cruz and Kinsler, guys that were nailing the ball last night. They are part of a collective offer so far this evening.
Yeah, the starting pitcher definitely dictates what the other team is going to do. And we've already said Scherzer has been on a pretty good roll since he's been recalled from the minor leagues. He pitches really well in this ballpark. And he's a young pitcher that came over in that trade from Arizona. Edwin Jackson went to Arizona. There's a lot of other players involved, other teams involved. But the Tigers picked up Scherzer. They picked up Phil Koch, left-handed reliever with really good stuff. Austin Jackson is their center fielder.
Murphy rips one, but Guillen has got it. Murphy had a home run in his first at bat last night. Lines out here to cap a 7-pitch inning for Scherzer. Baseball fans, Chevy, a proud sponsor of youth baseball in Texas. If you'd like to learn more about Chevy's commitment to youth league baseball, just go to ChevyTexasBaseball.com. Got a beautiful night here in Michigan tonight. The Rangers finishing up with the Tigers, trying to knock the Tigers down to an 8th consecutive defeat. And the Rangers are coming home to play the Angels, who lost today. And they almost rallied in that game. They were to within 7-6. And kind of a weird thing happened, Tom. Brett Gardner was ejected. He never gets ejected. That's one of the most mild-mannered guys ever. And Colin Curtis stepped in with an 0-2 count. Worked the count to 3-2 and hit a 3-run home run, the first of his big league career. And from there it was 10-6 instead of 7-6, and the Yankees won. So thank you, Colin. Carlos Guillen will check his swing. The Angels will come in at least 5 games out. The Rangers hoping to make that number 6 when Cliff Lee takes the mound tomorrow night. And what a matchup. Lee against Jared Weaver at the ballpark tomorrow at 7:05. Lee's still looking for his first win as a Ranger, but he leads the American League in ERA 2.59. 8 wins, 4 losses. Weaver is 9-5. Now we talk about Weaver tag as the Angels ace, 9-5 ERA in the 3s. Here's Colby Lewis on the mound for the Rangers. He's 9-5 ERA in the 3s. Gonna walk Guillen. Second walk already for Colby. I saw a little note today from Rich Durrett. He does a great job covering the team, talking about not only Colby Lewis but the other top starters that the Rangers have. If you just parse it down to Lewis and Hunter and the two lefties, Lee and Wilson, your top 4 guys. 32-14. Obviously, Lee has done a lot of that somewhere else, but your top 4 guys are 32-14 with an ERA of 2.94. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's why the Rangers are where they are right now, 15 games over 500.
Strike taken by Don Kelly. Kelly getting this extended look here because Brandon Inge is on the DL. Forced onto the DL on Monday when he got hit by that Scott Feldman pitch. Back into the crowd, and a crowd of probably about 25,000 again tonight. It's been a consistent number in this series. This ballpark's been open 10 years. And pretty sad to drive by the old place today. Tiger Stadium is no more. The dirt base paths, strangely, are still there, Tom. And the mound. They never leveled the mound. But the bleachers are all gone. Everything else is just all gone. But if you wanted to, you kind of just break in there and run what used to be the bases. Rip and a miss, and Kelly couldn't get it. Down he goes.
Again, Kobe comes back. He came back from a base hit and a walk to lead off the first. He walks again, comes right back and makes all the pitches you have to make and strikes out Kelly. Looked like a cutter. Down and in. What a nice pitch.
That's the pitch that Colby added and then polished while in Japan. A new cutter and the newfound ability to throw strikes made him, of course, a hot commodity this offseason coming back from Japan.
Gerald's having a tough year. 183. He's only knocked in 13 runs. That's 175 at bats. He's a much better hitter than that.
Not a lot of production from the catcher's position offensively, but both of their guys, Laird and Alex Avila, have been throwing guys out. Now, Gerald's got it in him to do a lot of things well. Give you a stat from 2008, Tag. His last year with the Rangers. He was the only Ranger that year with more than one multi-homer game. Gonna crack that one to left field, and he will remind everybody what he can do. It's 2-0 Detroit.
Like Gerald got a curveball. He got out in front of it, and the ball hangs right in the middle of the plate. That's the hitter zone right there, right in the middle of the plate. And even when a guy's struggling, that's a pitch that he can hit. It's a slower pitch, which lets you get the bat head out. And then when you add being able to get the bat head out, which Gerald's had a hard time doing this year, to the pitch being right down the middle of the plate, then you're kind of playing into the hitter's hand.
Santiago rolls out immediately. Well, Laird and Lewis used to be battery mates when Colby Lewis was first coming around as a Ranger. 02, 03, 04. Gerald wasn't with the Rangers yet in 02, but by 03 and 04 he was catching Colby quite a bit. It was just homered against him here, just his third all year. And back to what we were talking about in 08, Gerald's last year with the Rangers. That was the year Josh Hamilton was fantastic. Milton Bradley had that OPS of 999. He had Blaylock on the team, bunch of mashers, but the only guy with more than one two-homer game that year was Laird. He was bunting for hits as usual, doing a bunch of things well. Jackson sends that into the crowd. You saw that weird disparity there, that stat, how he's hitting righties so much better. Jackson is a right-hand batter. Usually it's the other way around. That one's in the right. Nelson Cruz going back to the track, and he will make the catch. Jackson still just one home run. But Gerald Laird now has 3. A 2-run shot here in the second inning has made it 2-0 Detroit. Texas Ranger Baseball brought to you by Geico Insurance, where 15 minutes can save you 15% on car insurance, and by AT&T. See what's new from AT&T. Go to att.com for details. Those gorgeous statues out there behind the left center. Each of them weighs about 1,500 pounds. Benji Molina will take here, strike one, top of the third underway. The reigning player of the week in the American League because of what he did in Boston. An exciting triple that punctuated his first ever cycle. And Benji's, we told this little story on Monday. He's going to have to drag that actual cycle now on the airplane home with him. That little big wheel that the guys went out and got him to commemorate the occasion. Benji's got kids. He might be able to hand that off. I'd love to see Benji try to ride the big wheel, though. It's going to be good video. Turning 36 years old yesterday, Benji Molina, showing he's still got plenty left. Going to foul that one down the left field line. He's getting set to take on his former team, the Angels. Got the 4-game series starting tomorrow. We mentioned it is Cliff Lee against Jared Weaver. 7:05 first pitch. Friday, the fireworks night. C.J. Wilson against Joe Saunders. And as Molina pops one to right, a quick reminder, too, that there are still tickets available Friday afternoon for the Hall of Fame luncheon in Arlington. Tom Grieve will be feted then and then formally inducted Saturday night into that Ranger Hall of Fame. TexasRangers.com or 972-Rangers. 2 ways to get your luncheon tickets for Friday afternoon. Actually, 11:30 a.m. if you can get out of work just a little early. Take that long lunch break.
4 out of the first outs for the Rangers have been right-hand hitters hitting soft fly balls to right field, which probably shows that Scherzer's fastball is catching up with the Rangers a little bit early in the game. They're not catching up with it as much early in the game, I should say.
And now a left-handed hitter goes to left field, Chris Davis. Again, Scherzer, you talked about it coming right on the air here tonight, Tom. The fact that since he's come up from the minors, he's just kind of emerged as a guy that the Tigers thought he'd be all along. Sometimes it takes that little tune-up in Toledo.
Well, the Tigers still have some older guys on their team, but the trade that they made with the Yankees and with Arizona made them a lot younger. Scherzer's a lot younger than Edwin Jackson. Austin Jackson's a young, developing center fielder now. Phil Koch is a good, solid setup man. And Daniel Schlereth was a #1 draft choice for Arizona, is another option in their bullpen, hard-throwing left-hander. So they got all 4 of those kids who will be a big part of their future. It was a good move by the Tigers, geared not necessarily to fall back now, but definitely to be better in the future.
Elvis Andrus into right field, and boy, he's 8 for 17 now, Tom, since that 0 for 25. He's kind of leaving that thing in the dust.
High fastball, does a good job getting on top of it instead of getting underneath it and hitting a lazy fly ball to right field. And that's what Elvis has to do until he gets a little bit stronger, develops a little more power. Most of his fly balls are just going to be outs, and so he has to concentrate on hitting the ball on the ground or on a line, not in the air.
Michael Young, who had a long at bat that culminated with a walk in the first inning. Tying man for the Rangers here in the 3rd.
Joey and Veronica Vasquez are here. They want to say hi to their friends and family back in Fort Worth.
Ran into them at the tour of the Rouge Ford factory today.
Wow.
Checking out all the cars. Real good Ranger fans. Been a lot of them on this road trip.
Also got a nice batch of lemon squares from Angela Brace. Angela's here at the game with her husband Jeff, kids Whitley, Maggie, and Camille. They're from Texas, living here in Detroit. Big Ranger fans.
It is a good time to be a Ranger fan, boy. 55 and 39 is the team's record.
We sure saw a lot of them on this road trip. A lot of them in Boston, a lot of them here in Detroit too.
Your outstanding ears picked up what I think is the most representative thing that's happened maybe this whole year is that breakout of "Let's Go Rangers" chants at Fenway.
Yeah, Fenway fans had to yell pretty loud to drown them out late in the game. That was very impressive.
Waving the Ranger flag up there on top of the monster. Elvis goes, and the throw from Laird is right there. Boy, he's doing it all right now. Former Ranger Gerald Laird caught stealing and a 2-run home run. Rangers about to start a 7-game homestand. A reminder that next Tuesday, July 27th, it's the A's in town. You can get one free Kids 13 and under ticket with every full-price adult ticket that you purchase in select seating areas. TexasRangers.com/eSavers, how to get that done. Sponsored in part by 103.7 Light FM. Curtain goes up on the homestand tomorrow night with Cliff Lee on the mound. Tonight, Colby Lewis on the mound. Second time on this road trip. Really had to work for those 5 innings that he put in Boston. The Red Sox can do that to you, I guess, Tom. Get you for those 20-25 pitch innings.
Yeah, he threw a lot of pitches early and then had the rain delay. And then when he came back, he actually pitched really well.
Boy, that's a peach, hon. Look at that. Johnny Damon hits it, what do you figure, 30, 35 feet? And he was on for the second time.
Not much you can do with that. Made a lot of good pitches to Damon. Got ahead of him with a nice soft curveball. Laid on a fastball. He's out in front of another breaking pitch right off the end of the bat and just spins it halfway to the mound and beats it out easily.
Maybe now's the time for one of those Maglio Ordonez double plays you ordered up earlier.
Yeah, we didn't get the double play, but he sure pitched out of a jam.
First one is strike one to Ordonez. Oh, and 2.
Don't see Ordonez swing like that very often.
No. He'll step out to collect himself right here. Where you start your swing and you go, boy, I wish I hadn't done that.
Yep.
Taken, and down he goes. He struck him out.
Should have swung at that one. A couple of high fastballs and then a hard breaking ball on the outside corner. Kobe gets the call and Ordonez goes back to the bench. Slider right on the outside corner. That's a strike. Good pitch.
Beautifully placed. $114 strikeouts now for Colby Lewis. That's going to put him up to 7th in the American League. There's another base hit, though. That's 4 already for Detroit. That time it's Cabrera.
I said it a lot. You just cannot make a mistake on a breaking ball to Cabrera. He's going to murder it. Fortunately, that's only a single.
Had a 2-home run game that was very nearly a 4-home run game on Monday. Having just missed to right a couple times, he did homer twice to left.
Kobe's made some really good pitches tonight with his breaking ball, but unfortunately he's hung a couple. The one to Laird was the big one, and that one was pretty much down the middle of the plate to Cabrera. They're going to have to pitch out another jam right here, first and second.
Rookie of the Year candidate Brennan Bosch. And again, he swings at the first one. Again, Colby gets him to hit his pitch. Nelson Cruz will make the catch. We talked earlier about how Bosch is just destroying the league on first and second pitches. He's swung twice now, his Bosch against Lewis on the first one, and twice he has popped out.
The reason he probably had success swinging at first pitches was he was getting some pretty good pitches to hit. But the word gets around that you're an early in the count hitter, and you're not going to see those same pitches to hit. Kobe's gotten them twice by jamming them inside with fastballs. Not bad to be a first pitch hitter, hit early in the count. But as the pitchers start to realize what you're doing and they're giving you tougher pitches to hit, then it's up, and then you have to see if the hitter can make some adjustments too. You're not just going to see those pitches right down the middle of the plate to get ahead in the count anymore. That pitch was a good pitch, good fastball, and jammed him, just a little pop up to right field.
Tigers 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position to get going tonight. We've talked about Carlos Guillen, who's become essentially positionless with a couple of bad knees and a bad back. They plopped him at second base for this series. We see a guy like Ben Zobrist in Tampa Bay, Tom, who can play pretty much anywhere. And Guillen, almost the opposite of that. You're looking for a place where he'll do the least damage right about now. Used to be, he was a shortstop with a lot of range.
He's heavier, he's older, and he's been injured. And injuries is probably the key thing that slowed him down. His best position now is first base, but Tigers in a position there's nowhere else to play Cabrera, so there's no place for Guillen to play. At least not first base.
Continues to make adjustments, so Jim Leyland has said he's probably the smartest player the Tigers have, a guy who could manage someday if he wanted to.
And it's really not a spot for him to DH either, because you want Bosch's bat in the lineup. You have to play Jackson because he's the center fielder.
Got to play Damon. You're paying him.
And you got Ordonez playing right field. Yeah, and I think you want to play Damon at the top of the order. But you also like to have Guillen's bat in there.
Three and two. Took a pretty good cut on a 3-1 fastball. Runners will be in motion now. Colby Lewis trying to keep it at 2-0 early. Breaking ball struck him out. Guillen took it. Jim Wolf called it. Inning over. The Tigers strand two more. We'll play the fourth with Young, Kinsler, and Guerrero coming up. We go to the fourth with the Tigers on top tonight, 2-0, and we will have for you right now an AT&T trivia question. The members of the first class inducted into the Rangers Hall of Fame back when such a thing began in 2003. Answer coming up for you in the bottom of the inning. Of course, Saturday, Tom Grieve will be inducted. And the game time of Saturday has been pushed back to 7:30. So that we can all appreciate tag a little bit. Get the crowd rolling in there 6:30 or 7-ish. And a 7:30 first pitch now on Saturday. Friday is 7:05. Tomorrow is 7:05. And again, that banner pitching matchup of Cliff Lee and Jared Weaver to start the Rangers and the Angels. The Rangers will be 5 or 6 ahead of the Angels at the start of play tomorrow night. Well, the last time the Rangers delayed a start time, it was to honor this guy. It was Michael Young. Also ended up being the night that Cliff Lee made his Ranger debut. Young bashing that one towards the flagpole out there in left center field. He's going to run. On his way to second base and thinking about a triple. He already leads this franchise. Most triples in Ranger history. He's got another. Leading off here in the fourth inning. He just blasted away.
That looked like a changeup that really didn't drop. Looked like it got a lot of the plate. Michael had a great swing at it. Just lined it into the gap. Jackson plays Michael in right center field, so he had a long way to go to get this ball, and that was a changeup. Michael really hit that ball hard, and that was pretty much a triple all the way as far as Jackson had to go to get to it.
Now Kinsler, who tripled yesterday. And this is, as you might expect, a good triples park. And a lot of room in left center and right center. The infield back, Kinsler will take outside. Kinsler working on a 13-game hitting streak. Back-to-back games with a home run now, too, for the first time all year. Scherzer trying to get Jim Wolf's attention here. Wants a new baseball. That flagpole that you see out there, that used to be in play before they went ahead and shortened that left and left center field wall. Cordoned it off so you cannot hit the flagpole, and it's in play anymore. And that wasn't really even tricked up either. That was part and parcel to the old ballpark at Michigan and Trumbull. One of the things they wanted to have in the new ballpark was kind of a tip of the hat to the old ballpark, was an in-play flagpole. A padded in-play flagpole.
Yeah, that's so far away that it'd be very rare where an outfielder had to contend with that flagpole, at least to catch a fly ball. Might have to go retrieve an extra base hit out there.
Kinsler pops it towards the crowd. And a good 5 or 6 rows back. That guy took a tumble there. But he's okay. Good baseball town, always has been. Almost saw their team make the playoffs last year. Went right down to the wire. And kind of an embarrassing collapse for the Tigers at the end of that 09 season. They were 8 games over 500 despite getting outscored. They were 8 games over. They were up 3 games with 4 games to go and couldn't hold on. Rip and a miss. Kinsler down on strikes. That's Scherzer making his pitches when it absolutely matters.
Well, he's down in the count 3-0, and he battled back into the count with 3 fastballs. Ian fouled a couple off, and then he threw him a really good changeup. Now, that changeup dropped. The one to Michael stayed up above the knees, and that's the one Michael tripled on. That one not only changed speeds, had really good movement to it. Ian had a couple of fastballs that he fouled off, and very seldom you're going to be ready for a changeup after you've seen about 5 straight fastballs.
Changeup to start out Vlad Guerrero, and he just yanks it about 25 feet foul. Vladdy had a double and a long home run against Scherzer back in April. One of his 20 home runs this season.
Big slider.
Yep, changing a slider so far, not the fastball, which is, of course, his favorite pitch. Out of the University of Missouri, just like Ian Kinsler, Mr. Scherzer. Vladdy offered at it. And with a runner at third, and at one point nobody out. A couple of strikeouts for Scherzer.
He talked about it in his last 9 games, how he struck out 69 batters in 56 innings. Well, he can definitely strike you out, and I would have to guess that he gets a lot of his strikeouts with that slider, set up by a mid-90s fastball. It also looks with his arm angle that he's tough to pick up. Rangers really haven't had a really good swing at his fastball yet.
Hamilton, yep, chops an off-speed pitch over to first, and with a runner at third and nobody out, he goes through Kinsler, Guerrero, and Hamilton, and it stays 2-0 Detroit. 2-0 Detroit, and we will get you back to that AT&T trivia question with the Rangers Hall of Fame inductions coming up with Tom Grieve going in this weekend. We'll take you back to the very first class. Charlie Huff, Jim Sundberg, Nolan Ryan, and Johnny Oates. That was August 2, 2003. And just a couple of years after Johnny Oates was relieved of his duties, right here in Detroit is where that happened, where Jerry Narron took over. That shows you what all the Rangers thought about Johnny Oates just basically a year and a half after the change was made, that he goes into that very first Hall of Fame class with Huff, Sundberg, and Ryan. Buddy Bell, Fergie Jenkins, and Tom Vandergrift soon after that. They were inducted the following summer. And after that, it was John Wetland and the late, great Mark Holt. So you had the pleasure of working with Tag.
Yep, sure did.
Eric Nadel said of Holtzy during that induction, he never took for granted how fortunate he was to be living his childhood dream. When Mark was on the air, all was right in the world, said Eric.
He absolutely loved everything about his job. He loved the fact that he was the voice of the Rangers and the fans listened to every word he said on radio. He loved the press dining room. He loved everything about it. He was always in a good mood.
Kelly down on strikes.
Told me on more than one occasion, you'll never be a broadcaster till you learn how to eat like one.
Well, you're getting there. I mean, it's not all hummus anymore.
Favorite place on the road used to be in Kansas City, the Kabuki Steakhouse.
Laird, who had the 2-run homer in the second, is ahead 1-0. I mentioned Laird and Lewis were teammates for a while with the Rangers. This is such a different version of Colby, though. That last year with the Rangers, yeah, he had 10 wins, but his ERA, incredibly, was 7.3. He had a winning record. He was 10-9, but a 7.30 ERA, and he came back for a bit in 04, then actually came to these Tigers for 05 and was hurt. He didn't pitch in 05, but he did for a little bit in 06. On to Oakland from there, and then off to Japan. Laird gives another one a ride, but back to the track goes Nelly Cruz. Some journey for Colby Lewis. He also had a little stint there in Kansas City, and he never did pitch with Kansas City. He took the opportunity to go to Japan instead. And then things got cooking again. 26-17 is 2 years with the Hiroshima Carp.
And there haven't been many pitchers come back in the prime of their career from Japan. There's been a lot of players go to Japan, a lot of pitchers go to Japan. Most of them go there at the end of their careers and don't really ever come back here to play. The ones that do, it's kind of at the tail end of their career. So Colby's kind of in uncharted territory in that regard.
Well, Cecil Fielder as a Tiger, as a hitter, got things going.
For sure.
Maybe Colby Lewis as a Ranger, looking for his 10th win of the year tonight, but he's trailing 2-0. Texas Ranger Baseball being brought to you by your Texas Chevy dealers, proud sponsor of Texas Baseball, and by The Other Guys, starring Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg, in theaters August 6th. Ty Cobb, one of the first Tiger heroes, of course. All-time franchise leader and runs batted in. And the guy that everybody pretty much hated, even his teammates, to hear it told, but obviously the competitive spirit was off the charts. Here's the other extreme. You've heard of Everybody Loves Raymond.
Sure.
Everybody loves Nelly. Making a lot of friends, especially in the Metroplex. Got a great way about him. And the fact that this year he had, what, 7 homers in his first 11 games opened some eyeballs, too. Trying to get the Rangers going here in the 5th. It was a very disappointing 4th after Michael Young tripled out near that flagpole in left center. Kinsler down on strikes, Guerrero down on strikes, and Josh Hamilton bouncing to first on the first pitch he saw.
Yeah, it's man on third, no outs. Your 3 big hitters, 3 of your big hitters coming up, and the infield back.
A very unlikely thing. Yeah, 3, 4, 5 guys batting, infield back. You don't get that run in.
And Ian ahead in the count, 3-0. Fouled off some fastballs. Then boy, he made a great pitch on the changeup to strike him out.
Scherzer, you might remember, pitched briefly as a Fort Worth Cat, Independent League Baseball, because the Diamondbacks didn't sign him right away after they drafted him 11th overall. On the ground to second base. The next year at number 11, the Rangers had the pick. They took Justin Smoke. By the way, now has 30 at-bats in Seattle. A couple of home runs, but 14 strikeouts in his first 30 ABs as a Mariner. Loved your interview with David Murphy before the game tonight, Tag.
Yeah, David was funny. He said, I asked him what he thought when he hit that ball last night to dead center field, and he said, I thought, if this ball doesn't go out of here, I'll never hit a ball over the center field fence here for the rest of my life. And went on to talk about batting practice and how he hit a couple of balls fairly deep out there that didn't go out. And he said to the rest of the guys around the cage, my goal is before I retire to hit a ball over the center field wall in batting practice. And lo and behold, that night did it in the game.
And that explains why there was so much laughter in the dugout when
Probably.
it came in there. Part of an 8-0 Ranger win yesterday. The Coors Light Cold Hard Blast was David Murphy's home run, which we'll apparently show you right now. Into the shrubbery.
Yeah, it's 430 feet, and that was a high fly ball, and there was very little wind. So it wasn't a high fly that got up in the wind and just carried out of there. That ball was 430 feet based on the way David hit it.
Takes down here 3-2. He came close to hitting a couple more out of the ballpark yesterday. Tagged to right field.
Yeah, he went right down the line, one to kind of straightaway right field. They were right at the base of the wall.
But nothing above the knees yet here to Murph. And that one wasn't either. Down around his stirrups. And just like Nelson Cruz, he bounces to second base. 5 straight set down by Scherzer since the triple by Michael Young. Benji Molina has been as advertised, a guy who has been able to block some balls and work with the young pitchers very well. Pop the occasional home run for you. Two-time Gold Glover, and coming into this year, 3 straight years of at least 80 runs batted in.
Scherzer's last start, he lost in Cleveland, didn't pitch very well. 5 walks, 4 runs in 5 innings. But before that, he had 4 straight starts where he'd given up only 3 earned runs. 1 earned run in 3 games, none in another one.
Well, again, I think that one start he had against the A's right after he came back from Toledo. That's the one that you really hang your hat on. You strike out 14 guys in 5 2/3.
A lot of pitches, that's as far as he could go in the game.
Molina's going to take a walk, a 4-pitch walk, and Davis comes up as a tying man. I'll put in the call here for Davis.
Good. I was thinking that was a good time to try it.
Well, he doesn't have a home run yet. at the big league level here in 2010. He did have 10 down at AAA. And Ron Washington is right there with his first baseman, our Geico quote of the day. He finally got a couple of hits in this ballpark during the game last night. After an 0 for 7 the night before. Five in a row out of the zone by Scherzer. He will get a visit from Gerald Laird. I think Davis has been making better contact too, Tom. What he's been telling everybody is that he's been doing a better job of simply only swinging at strikes, which sounds maybe a little bit simplistic, but essentially, you know, he's still swinging and missing, but it pitches that are actually in the strike zone, not ones that are in the dirt. Takes a fastball right there. .354 average at AAA, but only 183 so far up here. Fires out one out of play, 1-2. The Rangers had scored 10 runs in a row in this series. Then Laird hit the 2-run homer in the bottom of the second tonight.
They've thrown a lot of good pitches for the Rangers to hit. That was one right there. That was a high changeup, kind of like the one Michael drilled for a triple. He's hung a couple of changeups. He's thrown a couple of really good changeups. The best one was the one that he struck Ian out on a 3-2 pitch with a man on third base. Rangers haven't hit a fastball hard yet. Elvis had a base hit on a fastball. But they haven't really gotten the bat out front and hit one hard yet.
No, high heat right there. We saw 96 on the gun from Scherzer. The Rangers strand another. And they trail halfway through it tonight, 2-0. Part of the homestand coming up. It's the Oakland A's coming in after the Angels are in for 4, July 27th through 29th. And you can also visit Six Flags Over Texas, saving 50% with a double play combo from the Rangers and Six Flags Over Texas. More information at 972 Rangers or at texasrangers.com. Denton Ryan's Austin Jackson will take strike one from Colby Lewis. Top third of the order in the bottom of the fifth. A Gerald Laird 2-run homer, all the scoring tonight. Both Laird and Lewis, former Oakland A's. We mentioned they're coming into town soon. The A's are playing pretty well, Tom. They won again today, beat Boston 6-4. The A's are now above 500 and only one behind the Angels in the loss column.
We're going to have to start talking about the upcoming series with the A's in a similar way that we talk about it with the Angels.
No, yeah, I mean, the Angels have 46 losses. The A's have 47. The Rangers have only 39. The standings top to bottom brought to you by Jack in the Box. Again, the Angels losing 10-6 in New York today, and they're wheels up on their way to Arlington right now. On the ground into the hole. Andrews, scissor step, throwing. It's a fast runner, and he's safe. Great stretch by Davis. But no way you're going to get Austin Jackson.
It doesn't take away from how beautiful that play was. Going in the hole, throwing on the run accurately. Most runners would be out. But Austin Jackson runs well, and he was able to beat it out. But see how Elvis kind of comes around that ball to be coming forward to get a little bit on his throw. It's a close play, but he beat it.
How are your hamstrings when you watch Chris Davis make that stretch?
They don't feel good watching Austin Jackson run or watching Chris Davis stretch. Either way, my hamstrings would be in trouble.
Did that hamper your golf game today or no?
No. The only thing hampered my golf game is losing my glasses.
Boy, that's not
I'm having
good.
a bad year, boy. I lost my sport coat. Now I lost my glasses.
But not your mind. Your mind is intact.
I don't know. Some people say that's why I lost those two things, because I already having problems with the mind.
Damon lines to right. Anybody can lose a pair of glasses.
Yeah, but I've lost 2 pair good glasses too, not reading glasses. 2 pair in the last 5 months by leaving on top of a car.
Those are not the glasses that spin around at Tom Thumb, the ones you lost?
No, those are the ones I've got on right now.
Well,
and all they do is let me read.
Infield, the double play depth, and Lewis, whoa, throws it away. You can see that one coming. And there's a lot of foul territory here. That's going to enable Jackson to go all the way to third with only 1 out. Right in between the legs of Jackson. And the Rangers will bring the infield in.
So far, he's handled Ordonez well. A pop-up to the infield and a strikeout. Take either one of those right now.
Well, the Rangers couldn't get a run in with a runner at third. Maybe the Tigers will have the same fate. Michael Young coming towards that Tiger dugout. That was Gerald Laird right up there, barking at his old buddy. Five hits for the Tigers, only 2 for the Rangers tonight. And again with the infield in. A tough pitch. Ordonez went around on appeal. It's 0-2.
Ordonez having a hard time tonight against Kobe. He swung at a pitch over his head the last time up. Took a slider for strike 3. This ball busts him in. Looked from that view like he swung at it.
As they sang in the Motown studios, can't help myself. Now bouncing it to Elvis Andrus on 0-2.
And makes another good pitch with a slider. Same sequence of pitches he got him last time with.
Both these pitchers tonight, Lewis and Scherzer, with runners in scoring position, have been bearing down. Making some real good pitches to some tough hitters.
Well, Kobe had 2 men on, nobody out in the first inning. He had 2 men on, 1 out in the 3rd inning. Pitched around those. Leadoff hit here in the 5th.
Now Mike Maddox will come out with Cabrera about to bat, and I think that's interesting. Bosch on deck. And obviously the discussion here centers around making sure you don't give anything to Cabrera that he can do anything with.
The safest thing right here is to walk him. Either that, be pretty confident that you're not going to throw him a breaking pitch that he can hit, or a fastball for that matter. I wouldn't throw him a strike.
82 runs batted in.
Bosch is in a little bit of a slump right now. Kobe's jammed him with fastballs easily the first couple of times up.
Wow. Cabrera wanted to do something with that, but that's not a pitch you can do anything with. 0-1.
And if you're Cabrera, you have to think that the pitching coach goes out to talk to the pitcher in this situation and tells him, don't give him something good to hit. And he didn't. He threw him a breaking ball out of the strike zone.
And did it again.
Out of the strike zone.
And it's kind of where you say, thank you very much, Miguel. I mean, he just really wants that RBI, it looks like.
He's playing right into the Rangers' hand right now. So now the question is, will he throw him the same pitch and see if he swings it 3 in a row? Maybe throw him a high fastball way up and out of the strike zone. Give him the same pitch.
Yep, and he does make contact, but Michael Young is going to get him.
That's pretty good pitching right there.
I was with you. I'm thinking this is probably a walk coming up. Instead, it's a ground out. And it's still 2-0 at the end of 5. Time for the Sonic Slam inning, brought to you by Sonic, and the jackpot worth $1,200 and dinner for 2 at Sonic. Good luck to Shauna Hall of Commerce. If a Ranger hits the grand slam this inning, we're giving away $25,000 out in East Texas. You can register at any North Texas Sonic restaurant. At Comerica Park tonight, the Rangers will be back home tomorrow. Hope you're making plans to come on out, bring your friends, bring your family, see Cliff Lee against Jared Weaver, a 7:05 first pitch tomorrow night. The Rangers and the Angels. Angels lost 10-6 in New York today. But the Rangers are down 2-0 here at the hands of Max Scherzer. Tough to say and tough to hit. Johnny Scherzer would have been easier to say, for example, than Max Scherzer.
Yep, you're right.
Just saying.
I don't think his parents were thinking about that he'd be a big league pitcher and there'd be an announcer complaining about how easy it is to say his name.
Some announcers
probably named after his grandfather.
Yeah, I'll back off on that one. It's a fine name.
I like to see his pitch count get up about 105, so he's not in here for the 7th inning.
It's easier to say Futini, isn't it?
I don't know. You got to be careful with that one.
Yes, that's true. 3-2 to Andrews now.
Scherzer's fastball has been really effective, and I think it's a combination of the velocity that he has and the arm angle that makes it tough to pick up. The Rangers really haven't gotten out in front of a fastball and hit one well yet.
On 3-2, Andrews grounds to short. Now, Andrews did get on in the 3rd, but then was caught stealing. Young tripled to lead off the 4th, and then the Rangers, I think the key stretch of the game right after that. Kinsler, despite being up 3-0, struck out. Guerrero struck out. Hamilton bounced out. And Scherzer's been kind of on cruise control from there. Young trying right field this time. It goes to the track. It goes to the wall, and it's caught. Mags Ordonez runs it down. 2 down, and Kinsler coming up.
Michael definitely has had the best at bats. A walk, a triple, and right to the wall in right field. Almost caught up with that fastball enough to get it out of here. Sliced it right to the wall.
You want that Arlington jet stream working.
Yep.
But we're in Detroit. Battle of the former Missouri Tigers. Scherzer and Kinsler. Again, something off speed to start a Ranger. The Rangers have won 50 of their last 80. Nice and clean right there, just to say they're 50 and 30 in their last 80. 20 games over 500. And yes, they are the best in the majors in that time. 80 games, that's about half a season right there. 50 and 30. Scherzer brings a 1-2, and Kinsler will send it down the line and foul. The Rangers have never had a record better than what they have right now. 94 games into a season, 55 and 39. If they do win tonight, they'd have a 6-game lead, be their largest since '99 at any time. Of course, '99, the last time the Rangers made it to the postseason. Kinsler trying to prolong a hitting streak. Right now it's right at 13. Bouncing ball right by Kelly. It's a 14-game hitting streak for Kinsler. And after a stutter step, he is going to second base. Bosch couldn't pick it up cleanly, and the Rangers have a man in scoring position for Vlad Guerrero.
Good at bat for Ian, battling up there. Got a hanging slider. He hasn't hung many of them. His slider has been really tough to hit for the right-hand hitters, and he is tough on right-hand hitters. But that one hung inside part of the plate. Ian's going to get a single and an error on the left fielder that allowed him to go to second.
Yep, that's the official scoring, because he did stop, it looked like, when he got past first, and then turned it on after that misplay. Now a little base hit from Guerrero should make it 2-1. A big base hit makes it 2-2. Vladdy has taken a couple of swings tonight designed to inflict some major damage.
Scherzer's had Vladdy's number tonight. He's got him taking the fastball outside corner and swinging at the sliders out of the strike zone. He's really pitching him tough.
Guerrero, Hamilton, and Cruz a combined 0 for 6 and only one ball out of the infield. I think that sums it up right there. Fouled hard into the crowd.
You can tell that his fastball is really, well, it's hard to call it sneaky. Usually you call a sneaky fastball a 89-mile-an-hour fastball. This is 96 right now, but it's 96 and sneaky. Even Vlad didn't catch up with that one. That was just fouled late down the right field line.
Kinsler the lead from second. Guerrero taking, and it's close, but it's 2-2. That one was at 97 miles an hour.
Well, when you think of Scherzer developing and getting better as time goes on, it's tough to get much better than he's throwing tonight. And you combine him with Justin Verlander, and that's a pretty good 1-2 punch of,
boy, yeah,
94 to 98 mile an hour fastballs with good breaking balls. Verlander's curveball, changeup, Scherzer's slider and changeup.
Vladdy reaching out, and it's a worm burner to second base. Another chance for Guillen that he handles flawlessly. The Rangers strand Kinsler and trail 2-0. Tigers by 2. We'll tell you about Stretch Drive season tickets. You can catch 3 games against the Red Sox, 5 against the Yankees. You get the Angels and the A's. Save up to 43%, and you'll have the option to purchase your same great seats if there's postseason action. TexasRangers.com or 972 Rangers for more information. TexasRangers.com to get your tickets for the upcoming homestand, too. It all kicks off with Cliff Lee on the mound tomorrow night. C.J. Wilson pitches Friday. Fireworks after the game. Saturday is the Tom Grieve induction ceremony to the Ranger Hall of Fame. Game time now at 7:30. Scott Feldman will pitch that night. You got 25 minutes worth of speech for us, Tag, or
I've got 25, but John Blake's not going to let me use it. I've got 4. I've got to condense 25 into 4. It's actually easier to talk for 25 minutes than it is 4. Oh, another jam shot out of fastball. He's getting in Bosch's kitchen all night long.
And Kinsler way out into right field to make that catch. Yeah, Bosch keeps swinging early in the count, and he keeps just hitting little pop-ups. Jammed every time.
He's a big, tall, lanky kid with long arms, got a little bit of a big swing. And so if you're a pitcher, I think you have to challenge him inside with your fastball until he shows you that he can get the good part of the bat on the ball. Right now, at least in this game, he hasn't been able to do that on 3 straight at bats. And it's a matter of adjustments. He's a young player. He's been around the league. People have seen him a little bit. They're going to test him in this area. It'll be up to him to make an adjustment. That's what it's all about.
Saw that with Chris Davis a little bit, I guess, to be fair about it. Chris burst onto the scene, had those 17 home runs almost right away. Then they develop a book on you, and you got a counterpunch. Very reasonable pitch count for Colby Lewis right now, Tag. Low 70s here in the 6th inning. Gets Guillen to pop one back into the crowd.
Yeah, Kobe's pitched very nicely tonight. He has the hanging curveball to Gerald Laird. 2-run homer. That's about it.
Yeah, otherwise we're looking at 0-0.
He's really pitched tough to Ordonez and Cabrera, especially last inning, to get both of them with a man on third base.
Guillen up and over. A leaping Ian Kinsler, a base hit with 2 strikes on him.
That's pretty nice hitting right there. Guillen took that right off the ground. That break.
Yeah.
He's a good hitter. You have to be a good hitter to hit that ball on a line into right field.
Kind of a patient gap-to-gap guy for the last several years. Former Seattle Mariner. He was the guy that tried to replace A-Rod as a shortstop in Seattle way back in 2001.
Another ball in on the fists. Young left-hand hitters are having a hard time against Kobe tonight.
Well, and give Colby credit, right? Because he's seeing that and exploiting that tonight. Just staying right with that thing that's working for him. But now he's got to face Laird again. A popular Ranger with his teammates those few years he spent in Texas. One man, 5 tools is what he said of himself. That's where he wore that number 15. Now it's taken number 12 here in Detroit.
Better not end up wearing number 10. He's going to be in trouble.
One man, no tools.
Yeah, that's when it's going to be out of baseball right there.
That's when you get into coaching, when you're number 10.
Yep. And I guess when you're really in trouble is if you go with number 0.
I got nothing. What if you're number 19?
Now number 19?
Yeah, one man, 9 tools.
Then you've invented a lot of different types of tools, I guess.
Chris Davis, by that logic, is insanely talented. Laird was the kind of guy that could nickname himself, and everybody was just fine with that. But he just had that demeanor about him. Tough not to like him. Originally an Oakland A's draft pick. That's what Colby's looking to do. You couldn't have just showed up in Port Charlotte and said, "Hi guys, call me Mustang," or something like that, right? I mean,
I guess you can actually say whatever you want. It's just a matter of how it's going to be received by your teammates, I guess.
Gerald coming here in the Guillermo Moscoso deal, December of '08. Originally part of that deal with the Oakland Athletics, the Carlos Pena deal that the Rangers made back in '02. That was Laird with Jason Hart, Ryan Ludwig, and Mario Ramos from Oakland. The Rangers giving up Carlos Pena and Mike Venefro. Haven't said Mike Venefro's name out loud in a long time.
Have you said it silently?
Yeah, probably
like in the back of your mind?
Several times, yep, while you're not around. 1-2 pitch to Laird. And this is not a home run this time.
And it would have been a home run last time if Kobe made that pitch, which is the pitch he was trying to make.
1 hit, 1 left. We're at the end of 6. Pitchers duel continues. Josh Hamilton is coming up. Texas Ranger Baseball being brought to you by the Ford F-150. Ford is the best in Texas. Also by Salt in theaters Friday. And by Southwest Airlines. Go to southwest.com, grab your bag. It's on. Max Scherzer has pitched a little bit like that so far tonight. He has held the Rangers to no runs on 3 hits. The Rangers coming off back-to-back games here in Detroit where they scored 8 runs. Even Josh Hamilton has been held in check tonight. Major league leader in hits and extra base hits and total bases. A couple of groundouts. On that Ford leaderboard, it's Josh way out in front. Got a 10-point lead on Justin Morneau. That's in the majors. One National Leaguer makes the list. It's Rafael Furcal at number 5. Since the beginning of June, Josh is hitting .440. And the next best on that list, Tom, since June 1st is David Wright, .364. Josh is at .440. That is pretty much lapping the field right there. About 85 points better over a stretch of 7 weeks than anybody else in baseball. Now the pitch count for Scherzer getting up there now. Got Weinhardt and Koch in the Tiger bullpen.
Yeah, there's probably some games where Scherzer would have been taken out after 6 innings. But I think with the Tigers in the middle of losing 7 straight and Scherzer throwing the ball great right now, Jim Leyland's going to work him a little bit harder tonight. And he's had a game where he's thrown 118 pitches. He's young, he's strong. Great night to pitch, so it's not like it's any big burden or anything.
Hamilton hanging around. Yeah, just 25 years old is Scherzer. And you said it right off the bat tonight, Tom, that, I mean, almost pay no attention to the numbers. 6 and 7, ERA close to 5. Pitching a lot better than that of late. He strikes out Josh Hamilton.
A lot of those numbers were earlier in the year, and this is his 10th game since his recall after being sent back to the minor leagues. And these 10 games have been a lot different than the first 8 games.
Yeah, he had an ERA of 7.29 when he was sent down.
Not sure exactly what the change was, but he credited John Matlack. John is the minor league pitching coordinator in the Tigers organization, with a couple of tips that really helped him while he was down there.
Very well respected pitching coach. And a base hit for Nelson Cruz. A 10-game hitting streak now for Nelson Cruz. And just like that, the Rangers have a tying man up.
This could be a pitching change right here. You've got David Murphy up, swinging the bat really well. You got a lefty warming up out in the bullpen. Let's see. They leave him in. I'm making the call, Jim. Better be careful.
You've been warned. Gene Lamont, the bench coach. I don't think can hear you up here, though.
All right. The call is on.
All right. It's Murphy for a 2-2 tie. You want to call location too?
I'll go with right field.
Oh, he came close to doing that twice yesterday. Took it right to the track a couple times. And did homer to dead center. Boy, put it right on the outside edge. A couple of well-respected baseball guys right there, Jim Leyland and Gene Lamont. Leyland's going to turn 66 this winter, and there's some speculation as to how much longer he will continue. Of course, Lou Piniella just announced his retirement yesterday in Chicago. Hot rumors that Ryan Sandberg is going to come on up and take over maybe next year in Chicago. That'd be a popular choice among the masses, I would think.
Last pitch was another fastball that Ranger hitters really just didn't get the bat out. David fouled that ball down the left field line. So Scherzer's had good stuff tonight, but he's had a great fastball.
96, but too high with that one. The pitch count at 116. What'd you say his high was? 118?
I think it was 118. Let me check on that. He had 118 back on the 20th against Arizona, June 20th. Another one 112, 113. Most of them about 105, I guess, would be the average.
Boy, Murphy's been doing a lot of this, just working that count. Do you start Nelson Cruz, I guess, is the question now. 3-2, 1 out.
Yeah, I think I would with David up there.
Makes enough contact?
I think so. Nelly's a good runner. I think he would right here.
Safe lead for now. Not going. And there is ball 4. So now what do you do if you're Jim Leyland? 118 pitchers. That matches that season high. You got the bullpen ready. You got Benji Molina coming up.
You leave him in and he hits a home run, it'll be a heartbreaker.
Leyland
Jim's moving around.
He's going to send Rick Knapp, the pitching coach, out there instead.
Probably with the instructions, find out how he feels. If he feels great, leave him in. If he says, I don't feel too great, then you might have to make a move.
The third walk for Scherzer, and it hasn't been one of those big-time strikeout nights for him. What do you got, 4 in your scorebook? I got 4 in mine.
I got 5.
5. Where's my missing? Oh, there's my missing strikeout.
No, it's 5 strikeouts, but he's pitching against a good team too. A team that's swinging the bats really well, which shows how well he's throwing the ball tonight. I think you see how well he's throwing the ball when you go back to the 4th inning and see the leadoff triple by Michael Young, and then see what he did with Kinsler, Guerrero, and Hamilton coming up next to keep the Rangers scoreless. Got a lot of hitters swinging the bats well, and nothing to show for it so far in the game, but a couple of men on right here for Benji,
who's having a very strong road trip.
On that one, might have hung it too much to swing at. Stayed in a little bit.
Now it is 0-2. Benji just kind of carves that one back into the crowd as the pitch count gets to 120.
Benji doesn't walk a lot. He doesn't strike out a lot. Since he's been here, he's had 40 at bats. He's only walked twice, but he's only struck out 3 times. Generally will put the ball in play, but this is a tough situation. 0-2 against a guy with a lot of pitches.
Laird is going to go out there and settle him a bit. Now the Tigers, with, as you said, Tom, the 7-game losing streak. They haven't had an 8-game losing streak since 05, and they are right in the thick of a race in the AL Central. There are 3 back in the loss column behind Chicago. Minnesota's right there with them. Benji hits it on the ground to short. Boy, that's exactly what Scherzer was looking for. They turn the double play at the 7th inning stretch at Comerica Park. It's the Tigers by 2. Two-0 at the stretch in Detroit tonight. And baseball fans, Chevy, a proud sponsor of youth baseball throughout the state of Texas. If you'd like to learn more, go to ChevyTexasBaseball.com. The Rangers are back in the great state of Texas tomorrow night. The Angels kicking off that big 4-game series. Cliff Lee against Jared Weaver at 7:05. TexasRangers.com to get your tickets. Tonight, Colby Lewis matched up against Max Scherzer. And Scherzer tonight, 123 pitches, a career high. Only 4 of those have resulted in a base hit. And Colby Lewis comparatively, Tag has hardly broken a sweat. 81 pitches for Colby tonight. But one of those was the hanging breaking ball to Gerald Laird. And Laird hit it out.
Yeah, Colby's pitched just as well as Scherzer has. It's that one pitch that's hurt him. Colby's given up 6 hits. 2 of them have been little infield hits. One by Damon, one by Jackson.
Again, Colby going in search of his 10th win of the year, and this is his 19th start. Every game he's been through 5 innings, and every game he's been more than 100 pitches. Couldn't make behind the back grab, and that's a base hit for Santiago.
The last 2 hits have been on breaking balls almost on the ground. Guillen golfed one into right field. Santiago chopped that one up the middle on 2 good breaking balls. Probably not a strike. Barely a strike. Probably wouldn't have been called a strike, though.
That brings up the exciting Austin Jackson. Once recruited by Georgia Tech to play point guard in basketball. I remember watching him play basketball for Denton Ryan. And the whispers were that that wasn't even his best sport. Described now as a Torrey Hunter starter's kit. Power's not quite there yet. We'll see the actual Torrey Hunter tomorrow. And Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And the A's are in next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The bunt after the conversation with Gene Lamont. And it's simply a foul ball. Young way in at third. A very shallow center field being played by Josh Hamilton. Of course, there's a lot of real estate out there anyway in center. 420 to that wall. And the bunt not good. 1-2. Gene Lamont used to manage the White Sox, you might remember, and the Pirates for a while. First round pick in 1965. Of these Detroit Tigers. On the ground, Michael Young can't get it. It's under him on into left. Fortunately, you've got the runner, the lead runner, Santiago, stopping at second. Boy, couldn't get the bunt down. Gene Lamont is forced to say go ahead and swing, and he's got himself a base hit.
That's third straight hit on a breaking ball, and it wasn't a bad breaking ball, really. Pitch is down. Just got the bat on it, found a hole. Let's see how far down it was. Probably not as far down as the one to Guillen, as the one to Santiago, but right at the bottom of the strike zone anyway.
A 3-hit night for Austin Jackson. It's pretty much the guys who used to play for the Rangers or watch the Rangers play growing up who have heard him tonight, Laird and Jackson. Now Damon pops up a bunt. He's down 0-1, so the Tigers can't get a bunt down for anything here.
Well, that's the best pitch to throw if a guy's bunting, a high fastball. What you really hope is that he pops it up and it stays fair.
Ordonez and Cabrera to follow. No sign of the bunt. He takes strike 2. Damon hitless last night with a walk. 1 for 2 with a walk tonight. Crowd of 28,000 plus watching the Tigers and the Rangers here in Detroit. Neither team has a hit tonight with a runner in scoring position. Slowly towards first, and Davis right on the bag. The runners move up.
Well, if he got the bunt down, he'd be in the same situation. So he got behind in the count, hit the little dribbler, but it moved the runners.
And now the big-time RBI guys coming up, Ordonez and Cabrera.
Well, it's not the first time Kobe's been in this situation. There's a man on third base with 1 out in the 5th inning. You got Ordonez, you got Cabrera. There's a man on earlier in the game, 1st and 2nd. 1st inning, as a matter of fact, got Ordonez, got Cabrera.
Yep. Once again, the reminder that the Angels come on into Arlington tomorrow. Your progressive upcoming schedule of Ranger baseball. 7 home games coming up. And it's out to the West Coast. See the Angels again. Next 16 games, Tag, are all against the AL West, and 7 of the next 10 against those Halos.
Yeah, it's a big part of the schedule. There's no doubt about that. I think when you looked at the schedule after the first half to start the second half, it was challenging. Rangers had met the first challenge, the road trip to Boston and Detroit. The worst they can do is win 5 out of 7. And next challenge will be the West. That's a big challenge. And then right after that, you get the Red Sox and the Yankees.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge every step of the way from here on in.
Infield comes in with runners at 2nd and 3rd, 1 away. And a blast in the left by Ordonez. 1 run is in. They're going to hold Jackson. It's 3-0. Boy, it all started with that single that dripped right up the middle off the bat of Santiago. Colby Lewis tried to make that behind the bag or behind the back stab of it. Couldn't quite do it. And now 2 more singles have followed.
Now this ball got right the middle of the plate. Ordonez didn't hit it that well. He was fooled by it. He was out in front of it, hit it right off the end of the bat. But if he gets that ball down where he wanted to get it, then Ordonez probably misses it.
Oh, double play is back in order now. And Cabrera, the league leader in runs batted in, is the man up there for Detroit. Now remember, Colby Lewis got Cabrera to go fishing a little bit in an RBI opportunity back in the 5th. Got him to hit his pitch again. This is in the shallow right. Jackson with good speed over there at 3rd. Nelly Cruz is up with it and firing wildly. It hits Jackson coming in. Rolls away. Colby Lewis has to, well, he was backing up the other way. Chris Davis will scamper in and get it. The runner advances from 1st to 2nd on that throw. It was like dodgeball. Nelly Cruz hit him. It's 4-zip.
It's kind of like the play in Boston when the Rangers challenged J.D. Drew on a short fly ball to right field. Nelly's got a strong arm, but it's so difficult, even with a short throw, to throw a runner out at the plate. You just don't see it that often. And so with the speed that Jackson has, they're going to challenge Nelly right here. It's not a long throw, but it's not an accurate throw. If he throws that ball accurately, then he'll get Jackson. But the throw was high, the throw was offline, and Tigers pick up a run. Cabrera picks up an RBI.
His 83rd of the season already, and here's Bosch, who just keeps on swinging at the first ones. So now it looks like that Tiger bullpen will be pressed into duty and up by, well, at least 4 anyway when we get on to the 8th. Breaking ball for a strike to Bosch. Perry is the righty and Koch is the lefty out there for the Tigers. Still not dark yet here. It's a beautiful thing about being so close to the central time zone like Detroit is. 9:10 local time here, but you got twilight or dusk or something like that.
Well, in the game, when Kobe's finished tonight, the line won't look that great. 9 hits and 4 runs, but he's thrown the ball well tonight. He's made a couple of mistakes, and the Tigers have hurt him with those mistakes. They've also hit some pretty good pitches recently. Some of those breaking balls down. You just have to give their hitters credit for being able to hit some pretty tough pitches. But as far as having good stuff tonight, Kobe's had good stuff.
71 of his 99 pitches have been strikes here, Tom. That's, I mean, more than 70% into the strike zone.
Doug Mathis is throwing. He may pitch the 8th inning, but at the very least, you can say that Kobe pitched deeply enough in the game to where guys in the bullpen like O'Day, Ogando, Francisco, Felice were able to get the night off. And depending on what happens, maybe the Rangers make a comeback and they all have to pitch, and that'll be great. But if that doesn't happen, Rangers will go home and into the Angels series with their key guys having 2 days rest in the bullpen. So even sometimes in a game you don't win, good things can still come out of it, and that would be one of them, the rest for the bullpen. Personally, I hope they all have to pitch tonight and you stay here for a while and have to win another extra inning game.
Yeah, but that's a pretty good silver lining, though, the other way, if it works out the other way. Breaking ball, no.
And I've seen it written about Cliff Lee that so far the trade has had 0 results because the Rangers have lost both games that Cliff started. That doesn't take into account that he's pitched 18 innings, saved the bullpen at least 6 or 7 innings. It doesn't take into account the benefit that C.J. Wilson has had from him being here and Tommy Hunter. So it doesn't always result in wins and losses.
That one is strike 3, and Bosch was halfway to first base trying to sell Jim Wolf. The Wolf was not buying what Bosch was selling. It is 4-0 Tigers at the end of 7. Your Coors Light Freeze Cam will show you some of Max Scherzer's best work tonight, Mr. Grieve. He's going to be done after 123 pitches.
Well, it was good work. It was very impressive. He had a terrific fastball. The Rangers really didn't get out in front of a fastball and hit a fastball hard the whole night. They had a couple of hits on fastballs, but they were ground balls to the opposite field. And you combine the excellent fastball, which set up a terrific slider and at times a really good changeup, and you have the results. 7 innings of shutout baseball against a really good hitting team that came into this game swinging the bats well. Just have to tip your hat to a really good young pitcher who had a really good night.
Your Verizon Wireless call to the bullpen. Phil Koch will come on, and Chris Davis will lead off against him. Koch getting into his 46th game already. Got into 72 with the Yankees last year as a situational lefty. 26th round pick of the Yankees back in 02. Having been selected by the Marlins in the 49th round the year before that. He said no thanks. Went on to junior college and moved up in the draft a little bit. Chris Davis did the same thing as a Ranger. At a Longview High, first and foremost, I guess, it was the Yankees that tried to sign Chris, a 50th round draft pick. And then of all teams, the Angels tried next, a 35th round selection. He said no to that. And signed with the Rangers in the 5th round in 06. Worth into the game to play third. And that bumps Kelly to left. Bumps Bosch to right, meaning Mags Ordonez is out. So 4 changes total here for the Tigers in the top of the 8th. Davis down on strikes. 3 and done. Bill Koch tunes it up there at 95.
When the last inning was ending, Josh, I was talking a little bit about Cliff Lee, and the fact that he's lost the first 2 starts is not just all that's happened since he's been here. You look at the fact that he saved the bullpen probably 6 or 7 innings. And then you watch CJ pitch his last start in Boston, and you see some of the things that CJ was doing influenced by what he saw from Cliff Lee. And then you watch them in the dugout and you see them talking about grips on pitches during a game. And, you know, so who knows how the influence will rub off on CJ and possibly make him an even better pitcher. And then Tommy Hunter after the game last night said the reason in the last 2 games that he's thrown so many more fastballs and not as many curveballs is because of a conversation with Cliff Lee when he said, hey, look, if your fastball's working and you're getting outs with your fastball, you don't have to throw your other pitches. That's your best pitch. Keep throwing it. Last night, Tommy had a good cutter, a good 2-seam fastball, and he featured it all night long. So on the surface, Cliff Lee's pitched twice, and the Rangers have lost both of those games. But underneath the surface, a lot of other things are going on that can make the team better. And at a time when the bullpen has really been used a lot, saving the bullpen 6 or 7 innings is not anything to sneeze at.
No doubt. And there are 15 or 16 more Cliff Lee starts still on the docket.
Yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't even include the possibility of some in October. And last October, Cliff was 4-0 with an ERA of about 1.5. 2 World Series wins. The Rangers in their history have 1 win in the postseason. Not of a series, but of a game. So for many reasons, a very important guy to have. And as we've been discussing all night tonight, you want a big game pitcher in a big series? Well, the Angels certainly will have that too tomorrow with Jared Weaver on the mound. He leads the American League in strikeouts. Cliff Lee's got that 14-1 strikeouts to walk ratio, and that last walk was an intentional walk. Elvis Andrus towards second, and the backhand pickup by Guillen. They're not making Guillen move nearly the way he had to on Monday night. We've been talking pretty much all series about his now limited range, but just kind of the way the ball has bounced tonight, it's been right near him all evening. Michael Young, as you said earlier, Tom, has made probably the most solid contact tonight. Had the triple in the left center and lined deep to right last time. Boy, as happy as it were to see Scherzer out of the game, it's not like Phil Koch is a pushover here following up. He's bringing it mid-90s and throwing strikes. Take you back to that 4th inning triple that led things off that inning for the Rangers. And what a disappointment after that, with Kinsler, Guerrero, and Hamilton following, and Michael standing at third with nobody out. They could not score. Remember, it was 2-0 at the time, and I think that really tilted the whole tone of the game right there. Kinsler was up 3-0 in the count at one point. See more action in the Tiger bullpen, including their closer, Jose Valverde. Koch will get that appeal, and they say Michael Young is gone. The Rangers, after dropping 8 runs on the Tigers back-to-back nights, have a 0 so far this evening. What you missed if you're just joining us tonight, Gerald Laird, an old friend, parked a 2-run homer off his one-time battery mate Colby Lewis. It was 2-0. The Rangers looking to come back with a runner at third. And then down go 3 real good hitters all in a row. Max Scherzer made sure of that. And Colby Lewis pitching well enough to win this one tonight, but it is 4-0 Tigers right now as we are into the bottom of the 8th inning. Colby giving the team 7 innings tonight, and now we'll turn it over to Doug Mathis in for a 12th time, just up recently from AAA. Been a back-and-forth season again for Doug. Colby Lewis tonight, Tom, once again, more than 100 pitches. Every start this year, all 19 of them. 7 innings, 9 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Final line for the Cobra. And now Mathis taking over. Another of those former Missouri Tigers we've been talking about tonight. Scherzer began the night for Detroit. Kinsler played a year there as well. Speaking of Missouri, St. Louis Cardinals tagged 7 straight wins all of a sudden. Still really can't get any separation from Cincinnati, though. Great race in the NL Central. And this AL Central race going to be a good one, too. 3rd straight year, it looks like. Been a 1-game playoff to decide everything 2 years running now. The Twins involved in both of those games. Game number 163. Guillen is out. That was a classic, number 163 last year, going deep into extra innings. The Tigers and the Twins at the Metrodome. Made it kind of awkward. They were looking to close out baseball at the Metrodome in style, and did so in game number 162, but all that did was force game number 163. And then there were playoffs to be had. Kelly rips one foul. As you look ahead to the Ranger 9th inning, they got the 3, 4, 5 part of the order coming up. Kinsler, Guerrero, Hamilton trying to set up Nelly Cruz. Kelly, a rifle shot into center, but right there is Josh Hamilton. 2 up, 2 down. One more time now for Gerald Laird, who again had the key hit tonight. Breaking ball that Colby Lewis would love to have back, but it went for home run number 3 this year for G. Laird. The Rangers will indeed head home when this one is done. Usually takes about an hour to get everything loaded up. Guys get showered and pay the clubhouse attendant for a job well done. Elvis Andrus can't get it. Another hit for Gerald Laird tonight. When his season really did need a jump start. He's getting it tonight with a couple of hits. Also threw out Elvis Andrus trying to steal. And the number 9 man in the order, Ramon Santiago now. Santiago's first year with Detroit, hard to believe, was 2002. Then went away to Seattle for a while, came back. He's had about 1,300 at-bats with the Tigers, but spread over 7 different years. And then again, played briefly right in the middle there for Seattle. Tigers trying to stop that 7-game losing streak. 6 of those after the All-Star break. And trying to reassert themselves here in their home ballpark. They had been 17-3 in their last 20. before the Rangers came on in here with that 8-6 14-inning win on Monday. A little sloppy, but very compelling. And then, as we've been talking about, the Rangers played a near perfect game last night.
Watch out.
Hard hit foul from Santiago. As part of that game last night, the Rangers pounded out 7 extra base hits. But tonight, only one, that triple from Michael Young back in the 4th. As we say all the time, momentum is that next day's starting pitcher. Tonight that was Max Scherzer. If it holds, Scherzer will go to 7-7. And Colby Lewis will drop to 9-6. The Rangers will try to say something about that in the 9th. Remember, they scored 4 in the 9th yesterday. Breaking ball chopped to second. And the Rangers will need 4 runs over their final 3 outs left to them. We'll come back in a moment, see if they can get it on Fox Sports Southwest. Texas Ranger Baseball brought to you by Southwest Airlines. Go to southwest.com, grab your bag, it's on. By Progressive, for a money-saving car insurance quote, call 1-800-PROGRESSIVE, and by the Ford F-150. Check out the 2010 F-150 and drive one. Ford is the best in Texas. A one-time Tom Grieve teammate, Willie Horton, immortalized in bronze out there. And here at Comerica Park in front of 28,700 tonight. There are some of them. It is Jose Valverde coming on now, trying to secure a 4-0 Tiger win. I'm sure part of the reason Valverde is out there, Tom, they've lost 7 straight. They want to make darn sure nothing goes wrong here. It's not technically a save situation, but they bring on a guy who's limited opponents to a 139 batting average.
Yeah, I'm sure that had a little bit to do with why Scherzer stayed in there for 120 pitches. Jim Leyland was going to go with his best, and Scherzer was still throwing the ball very well. Koch and Valverde, Leyland's 2 best relief guys, one for the 8th, one for the 9th.
All-star teammates a week ago. Look out, Valverde to Kinsler. Hello.
That was a changeup, not a fastball. Ball that just kind of slipped out of his hand. Not making any easier on Ian trying to get out of the way. That ball's right at his ear. Going 84 instead of 94 makes it a little easier, though.
Valverde, a behemoth of a reliever. Big, nasty-looking guy, but actually kind of a gentle giant off the field. Well liked by his teammates.
He pitched a scoreless inning in the long game the other night, but the Rangers really made him work. He threw about 30 pitches that night.
And he's going right into the teeth of what the Rangers are all about here. Kinsler, Guerrero, and Hamilton. And man, what is up?
Well, if I'm the hitter, I'm going to stand on the other side of the batter's box on taking this 3-0 pitch.
Ian's never worn body armor in his life. Now might be a good time to go get some.
Man.
You just do not expect that from Valverde. 3-0 pitch coming, and almost hit him again. Well,
I told you I'd stand on the other side of the batter's box. You're taking anyway. It's dangerous up there right now.
It seemed like quite the thing to do here. Up 4-0. You bring on the guy with a 1.11 ERA. Usually a strike-throwing machine. He's not close.
Now, the good thing about the Ranger lineup, all you have to do is get the men on base, because virtually every guy in tonight's lineup can hit the ball out of the ballpark, except maybe Elvis. So it doesn't matter where you are, top of the lineup, middle, or the bottom. If you get the right men on base to where all it takes is one swing of the bat, you've got a chance to tie it.
Rick Knapp heading out there, the pitching coach, I'm sure to politely ask, is everything all right, big guy?
Yeah, stop doing that, by the way.
Here's my pitching coach advice. Lower. A quick reminder for the folks that haven't heard it yet. Cover your ears tag here. I know you don't like hearing all this stuff about you, but it is your night, Saturday. Rangers and Angels, and we're ushering in Mr. Tom Grieve into that Rangers Hall of Fame. 43 years of fantastic service to the Rangers organization, and Tom Grieve deservedly so, going in Saturday night.
Thank you.
TexasRangers.com to get your tickets. 972 Rangers as well. Come on! What is going on here? Vlad Guerrero is going to take first base. Kinsler goes to second, and the Rangers not in a position to ask questions. They just say thank you.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a top-of-the-line closer come in and throw 4 pitches, 5 pitches actually, quite this wild.
Another all-star teammate got him right in the shoulder.
You know, he's trying to throw a strike, obviously. It almost looks like he's just throwing it right straight at him. Those pitches aren't even close.
He had hit only one batter all year in 41 innings. Almost hit Kinsler 3 times, and then he did get Vlad.
You know, it'll be interesting to see how many more pitches like that will it be before Leland warms somebody up in the bullpen. Tried something other than his fastball.
And I mean, it didn't hit anybody, but it's still ball 1, and they are going to get some action in the bullpen now. I think you almost have to.
Josh has a better chance as a lefty. The pitches seem to be going in the right-handed batter's box.
This isn't even effectively wild. This is wild to the point of giving Nelly Cruz a chance to tie the game with 1 swing.
Yeah, I mean, what can go through a pitcher's mind right now? You know, only the hitter can guess, but you start to worry about whether or not you can throw a strike.
That's 7 balls and no strikes so far. 7-1. Facing the leading hitter in the majors, Mr. Hamilton. Big swing. Had a good fastball that time, 2-2. I mean, this is like an opera singer coming out to sing the anthem, and then his voice cracking on the first 9 notes, and then, all right, now he's got it.
That could have been a ball right there. Josh had a good swing at it.
Maybe he doesn't quite have it yet. It almost hit Josh in the foot. The runners go to second and third.
Yeah, and those runs are meaningless, but it does take away the double play anyway.
And one more pitch out of the zone. Nelson Cruz can tie it with 1 swing of the bat.
And Josh is in a good spot right here. Look for a good fastball to hit. Ahead in the count, he's pretty much has to throw you a fastball right here. Although he's been equally wild with his off-speed pitches and his fastball.
On the ground, skipping right into the chest of Santiago. That'll get a run in. The shutout bid ends. It's 4-1.
Yeah, and the Tigers are just glad to get an out. The run is meaningless. The guy at third is meaningless. 2 guys who haven't hit yet have to score before this game is tied. But the wild pitch did move the guys to second and third. And it gives the Rangers 2 more outs instead of 1. If Hamilton hit the same ball with men at first and second, that would have been a double play. Maybe he would have, maybe he wouldn't.
RBI number 70 for Josh. Cruz will take up too high, and he's still not exactly out of the woods here, Mr. Valverde, with 9 balls and 3 strikes. That one is pounded right in at 96. David Murphy on deck. Almost hit Nelson Cruz. In fact, that jersey kind of bloused out. I thought it might have hit that jersey, but I guess not. Looking for the tying man to bat. Boy, that was close.
Yeah, so you're the hitter right now, and you're thinking, well, I want to be ready to hit, but I'm also a little bit worried about how far these 96-mile-an-hour fastballs are coming inside.
No kidding. Infield back. And that one hangs on the corner for a strike, 2-2.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to hit that thing. After the one before, it almost hit you right in the shoulder. 96 miles an hour.
Ooh.
Perfectly placed on the outside corner.
Got him.
I'd have to say, Tonelli in that at bat, that was effectively wild.
Yeah, after he put some fear in him with that one that almost got his jersey.
They're just all over the place to the point where you just don't feel comfortable looking for any particular spot to hit the ball. They're up and in, up and away, all over the place.
If the Rangers can't salvage it right now, it's a 5-2 road trip. Which is still fantastic. You come to two ballparks that have just crushed you the last 3 years. Again, the Rangers had been 5-21 at Detroit and Boston combined. Looking to go to 6-1 if they can rally here on this trip. If it does end up 5-2, though, the Rangers will still have a 5-game lead on the Angels when they take the field against them tomorrow night. Cliff Lee on the mound. The Rangers are not going to go away easily here. Murphy continues to milk that count.
And if you're Vlad at third base, you don't even have to try to score on a wild pitch right now. It doesn't make any difference.
Yep.
You shouldn't take one chance in 1,000 trying to score right here, because the only way the Rangers can tie the game is other batters have to move you around anyway. Whether you score on a wild pitch really is insignificant. 4-1, 4-2.
A chopper towards second base. Guillen has got it, and the road trip is 5-2. The Tigers hang on. Valverde gave everybody in this ballpark a scare, especially the batters. But the Tigers do get that win, and they needed one. They had lost 7 straight. Gerald Laird, one of the heroes, the former Ranger. And again, your final tonight here at Comerica Park. The Tigers 4 and the Rangers 1. We'll come back with more in just a moment. Well, the old 2 out of 3 ain't bad is in play here in Detroit. The Rangers lose tonight, but they won the first 2 of this series. They also took 3 out of 4 in Boston, so an overwhelmingly successful road trip that looked like it was going to be a toughie coming out of the break. Tigers take it tonight behind Max Scherzer. The final is 4-1, and a game played in 2 hours 35 minutes. It'll be the Rangers hosting the Angels tomorrow night. Cliff Lee against Jared Weaver. What a way to kick it off. Rangers Live is coming up next with Dana Larson and Steve Busby. For Tom Grieve, Josh Lewin, thank you for joining us tonight. Again, your final this evening, the Tigers 4 and the Rangers 1.